Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine with Norman Goodfellows, and welcome to what many people have described as the Camps Bay of Santon. This is the sand deck at the Santon Sun, and not only is the view fantastic, but the company is splendid because the company is the greatest export Mauritius has ever seen. Le Roi de Santon, Monsieur Miguel Chan.
Merci,
Lovely to have you
monsieur.
back on the show.
Thank you. Always a privilege to be on your show.
Now,
And
annoyingly, not only do you never age at all, like great wine, but also you never look remotely tired or stressed or worn out, which is quite bizarre because we're sitting in January and I know you will have had an absolutely manic season running not just this spot, but one of the great wine distributors of South Africa in the Southern Sun Group.
the secret is a glass of wine every day.
Every hour.
Well, who knows?
Well, you're looking in great spirits, and you have been tasked today with a challenge that I've given a couple of our wine colleagues as well, and that is doing something that for you is particularly unusual, because I know unless a bottle of wine costs at least €1,000, you're unlikely to look at it, and I instead have given you 250 Rand, sent you shopping out to Norman Goodfellows, and done something you probably haven't done since you were a student, which was desperately trying to find great quality wine on a very small budget.
Indeed. The last time I had to take 250 Rand and trying to find 2 bottles of wine in a shop was a few years back. And it is a reality today with the rising cost of production. And we are seeing that more and more wine are reaching closer to the 1,000 Rand mark per bottle. But the beauty of it, the Cape industry still offer incredible value on the global stage, not only locally but everywhere. And it was quite fun actually to be out there and seek out those little gems. And I was lucky to find 2 beautiful wines at under 250 Rand combined.
Before we go into what you've got, I'm looking forward to trying them. Just tell me about the process. Was it kid in a toy shop wandering around and, all right, I've got my pocket money, there's only so much I can spend, what am I going to choose?
Indeed, it was. It was the longest time I've ever spent in a wine shop. It took me close to 1 hour to find those 2 bottles, because now you have to balance the act where rates is easy. You have many rates at around the 150 mark, and then whatever was left, there's very little white at around the 100 mark or close to it. So it was a juggling act of trying to find wines with consistent quality, with a reputation behind them in terms of where they get their fruits, and the personality behind the brand also, and the region. So there's no obscure wine from any regions other than the Cape here. We are right in the Western Cape, and 2 beautiful areas. And I always believe wines, when you enjoy wines, irrespective of the price, it's about the story behind it.
We almost got the same white wine because I did the exercise as well, as we'll find out later in the show. You went for something that I've really enjoyed for many years. You've gone Shannon, but you've gone a slightly different area. Tell us about this pick and what, beyond just the price, was what motivated the selection.
The beauty of what we have in the white one here is a beautiful Cederberg Chenin Blanc 2024. It's one of the highest vineyards in the Cape. Here we're looking into freshness. We're looking into a vibrant, zesty white wine that is, glass after glass. It's a pleasure to savor. And it even will appeal to anyone that loves their Sauvignon Blanc or an unwooded Chardonnay. It's a good wine of compromise between those 2 styles, but nevertheless recognized as a beautiful, juicy Chenin Blanc. And the beauty of the altitude and the wines made by David Nevo is the purity, the clarity you get in the glass. And talking of the price, it's hard to beat at 150 in a bottle.
That's a great price. Under 120 Rand bottle.
Yes.
For a really good Chenin Blanc. It is 2024, so it's still quite young. Let's see how it is drinking. I can see a touch of effervescence in the glass, which reflects the youth.
Yeah.
But David Nevo is an extraordinary winemaker, and almost surprising we haven't seen more wine come out of the Cederberg area, given how successful he's been.
That's true. He's kind of the sole producer besides 1 or 2 smaller guys out there. It's quite an isolated ward of the Western Cape. The benefit of altitude, this is a forthcoming Chenin Blanc, fruit-driven, laced with zesty citrus character, and it's super refreshing.
It's
It's
really
concentrated. There's pears, there's textures. It's a charming glass of white wine, way over delivering on its price point, especially at a time where we all have to watch our pennies.
And in the spirit of budgeting and boxing clever with your wine, you can enjoy the first glass on its own quite happily, but this is going to go really nicely with quite a bit of food as well.
Absolutely. Great aperitif, but beautiful with a platter of seafood or just a simple pan-fried fish. You know, it's versatile. That's the beauty of Chenin Blanc. It's something that we don't celebrate enough in South Africa, is the quality of Chenin Blanc we have. We are rand for rand the best value white wine out there on the market.
All right, you've come up with a cracker first up. The second wine I am delighted you've chosen. I actually did see this as well.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I came across this, I thought it was named after an Asterix character. Here's Chamonix, and then it turned out no, it's part of Switzerland. The Chamonix Rouge, which is looking very different now to what it used to. I used to go as a student out to Franschhoek when I was at the University of Cape Town, and I would buy this at, and this is probably looking at about 1998. I used to buy this at 20 rand a bottle, and it was a glorious investment.
Dan, you're spot on. What you've just said is exactly the first time I've encountered Chamonix Rouge. It was my first visit to South Africa. I was a hotel school student. It was 1998. It was 20 rand, 19 rand or 20 rand a bottle, and that's what I could afford back in those days. And it was absolutely gorgeous as a red wine. And over the years, I've had it on and off, and I was surprised with the change of the label. This is their new label. And this is a solid four-way Bordeaux style blend, and let's see what is in the glass.
I have high hopes because there is much nostalgia to this for me.
Indeed, it's beautifully perfumed. It's classic blackcurrant cassis. You have a beautiful fragrant oak at the back.
I think what comes through for me most, we expect in the Bordeaux blends to often find some Petit Verdot, but it's always there in very small doses. It's usually a couple of percent. This is almost a quarter Petit Verdot,
This is
and
solid.
You really do get it coming through nicely.
Indeed, it brings a lot of that graphitey black fruit richness to the blend. This is not a simple red. This is a beautiful red, characterful. The beauty of it is a wine of origin Franschhoek. Two things that I choose when I was choosing the wine is to be site specific. Because the lower we go on the price point, the more we may tend to see a wine of origin coastal region, a wine of origin Western Cape. Per se, there's nothing wrong with it. But having a site-specific wine, it gives you that sense of place. When you have a glass, you're savoring it, you know that it comes from a specific area or ward or block. And it adds an extra layer of excitement to what is in the hand, as long as the quality is there, which was the idea behind. And that is a beautiful vin rouge for 114 rand.
That's crazy.
It's incredible.
I was slightly worried that because my memories were so good, but my palate was governed by a student budget when I drank this, that I'd be a bit disappointed. I'm not at all, and if you told me this was a 200 rand bottle of wine, I would have taken you at your word quite happily.
Easily. This will punch way above a 250 rand. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's crunchy. It's vibrant. It's not a red wine that's heavy, yet it has enough charms and character for it to be versatile on its own by the fireplace, which winter is on its way in the next couple of months, or with your favorite piece of meat off the braai. It's gorgeous.
Miguel Chan, Group Sommelier, Southern
you.
Sun, you've outdone yourself. Félicitations.
Merci, monsieur.
So there we go. Doing Mauritius proud, under 250 rand, a great South African Chenin. And well, that is a red wine that has over-delivered comfortably. Our January Wine Challenge continues. It's the end of the month. You've got no money after Christmas, but you still want to drink some decent wine. You need some advice on how to do something that sounds completely impossible. Well, you haul in some experts, and experts I have today. Steph, lovely to have you back on the show with a task that, as with our other guests today, is quite difficult because you generally have first gross and Grand Cru for breakfast, and I'm sending you off to Norman Goodfellows armed with 250 rand, not to buy a glass of wine, but to buy 2 entire bottles. A slightly different experience, but what I'm hoping was actually quite good fun.
Yeah, a hell of a lot of fun. Very grateful for Natalie, first of all, because she helped give me some direction. But yeah, it was interesting.
The wine, the Great Domains, does you bring a lot of international wine. You've got a lot of very bespoke, very high level South African wine. This is an opportunity to see some stuff on a slightly different end of the scale, but often wine that still is able to deliver something quite extraordinary.
Very much so. Obviously, with one of the wines we'll come to later, there had to be a little bit of a tip of the cap to Great Domains. But yeah, as much as I would love to drink Grand Cru Burgundy for breakfast, we can't always. So I think very relevant, the discussion of what do we actually drink when people aren't looking, and just for the normal go-to after work.
I've got very high expectations. You are not only an accomplished sommelier, but a diploma with WSET. You got your level 4 last year, and congratulations once again. It does mean that I'm expecting great things from your selection. Did you start when you went looking with the red or with the white?
Started with the white. I think purely mood driven, just because it was hot. So I was like, what do I feel like drinking this evening? So yeah, started with the white and ended up on Newton Johnson, and then for the red some Thelema.
All right, we're going to try them in a second. When we start with the white though, what's governing your thought process when you're looking at a white wine that is going to deliver some quality but is also going to match your budget?
Sure. Yeah, hard to describe, but I think probably the weather is the starting point for me. When it's this hot, and I mean, as much as I love the rain, it was great to see a little bit of sunshine yesterday. Something kind of bright and fresh and lots of acid, a little bit tropical, sort of reminiscent of the holiday days that I wish I was still living.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and I think Sauvignon Blanc kind of screams that. So I thought, right, well, let's look for a Sauvignon that you could kind of smash a bottle or two of with hopefully not too much judgment.
All right, now you can get Sauvignon Blanc that is not terribly well made, that's going to rip the enamel from your teeth and give you heartburn for weeks.
Well, you can ask my dentist about that.
Well accomplished, I'm sure. Alternatively, you can get Sauvignon Blanc that really delivers something great. And I've got no doubt you've done here. What have you chosen, and why do you feel it delivers?
So we've gone for the Newton Johnson Sauvignon Blanc. I think it's that wonderful kind of fresh acidity that I was talking about, all the tropical fruit. But what I love about this example in particular is they've got a touch of Semillon in there. So it just gives a little bit more body, a little bit more weight, and makes it slightly more serious if you are inclined to have a plate of food and not just quaff it next to the pool. So.
It is such a great plug-in to Sauvignon Blanc, and often we don't know that it's there because if it's less than 15%, it doesn't have to be mentioned, but it does just iron everything out and give it that bit of balance.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
All right, what were we looking at price-wise for this?
Price-wise, $139
okay.
at NGF, and yeah, just I think really, really good value. So I mean, $139 in terms of cocktail doesn't go very far. So.
All right, I think that's a great purchase. Cape Winemakers Guild member producing it. Sauvignon Blanc definitely gets my tick. What about the red? You've gone the Thelema Mountain Red. Tell me about that.
So yeah, again, I think a little bit slightly warmer weather at the moment. We haven't tasted it yet, so we'll see if the proof's in the pudding. But I just thought having a bit more syrup, perhaps there'd be a little bit sharper acidity still, some Grenache in there as well, so perhaps slightly lighter. I mean, not so light, but just a little bit lighter than a Stellenbosch cab for the weather at the moment.
And then a bit of Petit Verdot in this as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Particular Petit Verdot, which had me intrigued. It was quite
it's a slightly unusual combination.
Very much so, yeah. I mean, you'd expect a little bit of Rhone sometimes in a Bordeaux blend, but to have a touch of Bordeaux and Rhone is kind of the wrong way around.
All right, well, cheers. Let's see what we think. It's a beautiful colour, and that's very drinkable.
Right, and immediately just all that kind of fragrance of black pepper and violet and those flowers and kind of everything you'd want from a predominantly Syrah wine, and not overbearing and heavy.
And the kind of wine which I would imagine is sort of in that 200 rand a bottle kind of category, and yet it can't be if you have paid attention to your instructions.
So I missed the instructions. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I missed the instructions a little bit. So kind of 119 from Norman Goodfellows.
So you've gone 8 rand over budget.
8 rand over budget.
All right. So we'll have to give a glass away to somebody else.
That's right. I'm sure you can find a volunteer.
Did it surprise you that at the end of your shopping spree, with just 250 rand, you were able to still get 2 wines of this quality?
It did, and it certainly gave me some hope as well. There might be some life in my budget next month, which is quite good. But yeah, I think if you gave this to me and I didn't know the price, I certainly would have pegged it at kind of 170, 180, 200, kind of thereabouts. So I really feel it over delivers.
Oh, it does. It's got lovely balance, which is also crucial, and certainly does not scream this is a cheap and nasty glass of wine. So you've done particularly well, as is to be expected for a diploma holder. Thank you. Great selection. Lovely Sauvignon Blanc. Great red as well. Great choice.
Thank you. Cheers.
So there we go. 250 rand or thereabouts. She almost got the budget right, but two more terrific wines. Really good price, really good wine at Norman Goodfellows. So it's January, you're desperate to get some decent wine, but you've got absolutely no money left after Christmas. What do? Well, you tune into Dan Really Likes Wine with Norman Goodfellows, have Dan rope in a couple of experts, and you get some guidance on how to somehow find a couple of decent bottles at not much money. In this case, 250 rand for a decent red and a decent white. So what has Great Tawanda, the man behind the Potluck Club amongst others, got in mind? Very lovely to have you back on the show. How much fun was this for a man who, and I've seen your wine lists, they're all exceptional, but they're normally 6 and 7 star platter wines. Now you've got to go shopping for stuff that's in a slightly different ballpark.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you, Dan, for having me back on your show. It was absolutely incredible, especially in 2025. But yeah, thank you for the challenge, actually. It's sort of like brought a different perspective of what to shop for. And honestly, like for us, people that make wine lists and everything, you get your wines at cost, you're putting them on a wine list, you're thinking about what you want your guests and your valued clients to enjoy. But when you go into Norman Goodfellows and you're trying to shop for something, generally, depending on the occasion, if I just want to sit down and drink, I'm going to look for something that, slightly more affordable because, most of the time I can't go and buy a case of 2,000 rand. So this actually was amazing because it actually brought me back to thinking, when I go to a liquor store, what do I look for,
Well, I'm glad that it gave you a bit of joy, and I'm glad that you've come up with two wines that you have today because I know both of them and I think they're going to be really good. Let's start with the white. You've gone with Beauchard Finlayson. We tend to immediately think Chardonnay and Pinot Noir at Beauchard Finlayson because that's what they are so good at. This is something a little different. Tell us about the Blanc de Mer.
So yeah, Blanc de Mer, it's been a fan of mine for a very long time, made by Beauchard Finlayson. Partly because of its complexity. I think it's a blend of about 4 different varieties to 5 different varieties, which changes on a year-to-year basis. They use a bit of Riesling in there. They use a bit of Chardonnay. There's a bit of Chenin Blanc, Sauvignon Blanc most of the time. But the interesting thing is it just combines the flavors to be nice and brisk. You get good texture, good complexity, but with incredible freshness as well. And I think this wine, the reason why I chose it today and why I normally choose to drink the Blanc de Mer myself is that it's a wine that you can enjoy on its own because of that nice fresh finish, and especially if you're going to do like nice light dishes, regardless where you're going to, like from fresh fish, like from pasta, seafood, a little bit of light beef dishes, you can go with it because of the texture, and for me, just having that unusual blend of having a little bit of Riesling in there. Riesling always has this unique style of providing texture and lifted fruits, which I really like in wine.
It's quite unusual if we do see Riesling, and there's not a huge amount in South Africa. It's almost always on its own, 100%.
Yeah.
So slightly brave, but clearly effective. Let's try some and see if it matches up. You've sold a great story on it. Let's see how it tastes.
I hope it lives up. Yeah, immediately you get like those nice rose, sort of like rose petals. You get that nice sweet fruit coming from there. That crisp, balanced acidity. And I think this Beauchard Finlayson for me, they do such an incredible job year to year, and their consistency is actually unbelievable.
There's also a little bit of salinity to it that speaks to the name. It is close to the sea, wide of the sea.
Yeah.
Tell me about the price. What did this cost you?
So this, at Norman Goodfellows, is 115 rand. At that price point, at this quality, for me, I believe it's a steal.
And it also, if you're looking at something that covers as many bases as possible, because you don't have too much money in January, you can have a glass or two nice and chilled, but then have this with food as well, and you've covered both bases.
Yeah, true. Not only in January, by the way, when you have a Mampara week, that 1 week before payday,
Last week of the month, here's your go-to white. All right, great choice and nicely done. Then on to the red, and if there was any varietal I thought people would have struggled to find, it would have been Pinot Noir,
Yeah.
because we know that Pinot Noir generally is not an inexpensive wine. The grape requires more work, more time. We're used to paying a bit more for it, and yet you seem to have found a Pinot Noir at a pretty good price.
Yeah, brilliant. I think, Oak Valley, they've always been brilliant with their wines, when they're based in Elgin, but this is obviously they get it from the coast. But one of the Pinot Noirs that are incredibly, really, really good value for money. And I think, being January, being as hot as it is, most of the time when you're looking for wine, especially red, you want something a little bit lighter, something a little bit refreshing, a little bit juicy, so that it can be accessible to the palate during this time of the year. And this, for me, incredible. Like a little bit of cranberry, a little bit of rose, a little bit of soft fruits coming through, brilliant, beautiful acidity that balance it off, but and a little bit chilled for summer. This wine is absolutely incredible. And for the price that you get it, as you said, like Pinot Noir, you do a lot of work into it. It's not an inexpensive grape, you know what I mean? But, for the price point that this wine comes at and the quality, for me, is just unbelievable.
So a decent Pinot Noir, and this is more than decent, you're probably looking at 250, 300 rand a bottle, if not more. What did this come in at?
So this is comes just under 160. So 160 rand for this decent Pinot Noir. It's got everything that you would expect from a Pinot Noir, right? It's got I generally do love that nice tight tannins that comes with it as well, to provide a bit of complexity, and it's got like a very sort of like soft earthiness that comes with it as well, that integrates into the wine quite beautifully. And I think, yeah, in January, if you're willing to do something light, more on a Pinot Noir side basis, this is a really good value for money.
It's not Grand Cru Burgundy, but it is definitely really good village style, and at that price, again, you've done really, really nicely. Ever so slightly over budget, which is not to be surprised at somebody from the Potluck Club, because you guys do deal at the upper end of the market. Speaking of which, you've got a really, really exciting time ahead.
Sure, thank you very much. Yeah, so the Potluck Club is currently on a move. We're swapping homes. We were based in Rosebank for 2 years, which was an incredible time. Lots to learn, especially our first time being in Joburg. We're moving to our new home, which is the Peach Hotel. Lovely boutique hotel, very beautiful space to be in. And I think, with what the Potluck Club is, very contemporary, very sort of like boutique as well, with specific taste. I think it's going to be an incredible new home for us. We're very much looking forward to it, starting from next month.
I look forward to coming around. I look forward to finding wine at 250 rand for 2 bottles.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
More great hospitality, but a great selection. Nicely done. And cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Dan.
So there we go. Once again, showing what South Africa just does so well. Exceptional wine at absolutely ridiculous prices. Wrapping up this week on the show as we look at how to deal with January on a budget. Now, I've got 3 of the most celebrated, the most acclaimed wine voices in the country, and I sent them off to Norman Goodfellows armed with just 250 rand to buy 2 bottles of wine. Now, one of them managed it on budget, out of the other 2, well, one sells very high-end wine and the other runs high-end restaurants. The fact they came in anywhere close was a pleasant surprise. All of them delivered some really good wine, and wine that both delighted and surprised me in equal measure. But can I match up? Because Miguel, Stephanie, Gray, I've bought my wine as well. And this is a little intimidating, because here we've got one of the great sommeliers of modern times. We've got a diploma student and a man who's run some of the defining restaurants of Cape Town and Joburg of the last 10 years. I'm giving you the wine I've chosen, so I'm a bit nervous as to what you'll think. I decided when I went with this, I wanted to try and go something a little different. There's lots of stuff like a Petty Ken Forrester, or stuff from people like Maras, Martin Lamprecht on the Swartland, who deliver great quality, great value. But I've gone for 2 things slightly differently here, and the first of them, I decided to go for some Riesling. Now, we don't see a huge amount of Riesling in South Africa, and this, when I found it, 139 rand a bottle, I thought, you know what, I think this could be the way to go. I love Elgin. I love the Riesling out of Elgin. I wish we made more of it. And I know you in particular, Miguel, have got a mild medical addiction to Riesling. So have a sip of it. This is the one I've chosen. It's from the Sutherland label, so part of the greater Takara Empire. Straight away, The nose screams Riesling. You got the little effervescence that often speaks to it as well. I'm going to come back to you last because you're the master here. Gray, what do you make of this at 139 rand a bottle?
You know, you know, as you said, immediately on the nose, you pick up that it's Riesling. Really good flavors. You've got like beautiful acidity on the palate. It is well balanced. It's a really, really good Riesling. You know, like I think at 140 rand or 139 rand, it's a great steal. But yeah, why would you choose this though?
I chose this because I really enjoy Riesling, and I thought this was a really good price. And I also think you will have done a lot of this kind of work, especially in your diploma, Steph, finding areas of the world where it's just a grape that really seems to find a natural home. And the little Riesling they make, and it's Paul Kluwer definitively, that comes out of Elgin, it just seems to be such a natural home for the grape.
I think so. I mean, it's a lovely example. I'm sorry, Miguel, you might never speak to me again, but I'm not usually the biggest fan of Riesling.
Oh,
Yeah.
sacrilege! Heresy!
You've had some bad Riesling there.
Yeah.
No, but just kind of, generalizing. And I think this is, it doesn't have that kind of very pungent kerosene petrol characteristic.
Yeah.
It's more on the kind of key line spectrum. I think that's really, really inviting.
All right, so at 139 rand, are you happy to drink this and pay for it?
Absolutely.
All right, Miguel, I know you basically bath in Riesling when you get home.
Yeah.
In fact, I've had breakfast with you and you gave me Jessica Sarvine's Riesling, a Chi, I think, which, is a lovely wine. What about this one? Because you're the man with the high standards on Riesling.
Come on, I reckon it's a banger. It's a banger. It's a beautifully ripe Riesling. It's kind of a Rheingold meat Alsace kind of expression aromatically, but on the palate, it's distinctly South African. Beautiful touch of residual sugar, and I know many people love their white wine with a touch of sugar. And this is just a gorgeous, smashable kind of Riesling. And Elgin makes a beautiful example of it.
All right, so I think I've kind of got your collective thumbs up on the Riesling.
Well done, Dan.
Yeah,
Good
well done,
choice.
actually. Well done.
Then onto the red. Now, the red, I'm the one exception just about. I think by a couple of rand you were maybe the same. But for you guys, you went really big on the red, a bit less so on the white, which is generally usual because white wine normally is priced lower than red. We come to expect that. I've gone for a slightly more inexpensive red wine. And I've gone for the Guardian Peak Shiraz, and I've done that for a couple of reasons. I've always enjoyed the wine of Guardian Peak. It sits in the family of Rust and Freda, and it's usually been pretty good value. Comes from the Helderbergs. You're in a good part of the winemaking world when it comes to red, and they've always had some pretty good winemakers. But it's a red wine that's not that old. It's only 109 rand a bottle, and it's a red in a screw cap, which for most South Africans is a warning signal immediately. So I'm fascinated to see what you guys think of what I have picked and whether we are still friends once you've tried it. Miguel, what do you reckon?
It has everything a Shiraz has to be. It's spicy, touch of it's savory, lots of black olive notes in it. It's a good Shiraz for its price point, and it's come from a family that has an excellent in winemaking across all their ranges.
And it's probably at 109 rand, something again we will have to be cognizant of. We work in a great wine space. We get to drink amazing wine. It's often quite expensive. 109 rand is still quite a lot of money for many people for a middle of the week bottle of wine. And I hope it's delivered. You seem reasonably happy. Steph, it looks like the jury's still out there.
No, sorry. No, the wine's lovely, and I think, as you say, 109 rand is such a beautiful price point. And if you're entertaining, it's I don't know about you, Miguel, but I certainly struggle sometimes when you have non-wine drinkers that are a beer and you try
It's always a trick.
Yeah.
The shot's not quite coming out today.
The trick is simple: just put it on ice, the red wine, and you can convert the beer drinkers.
Absolutely, but no, beautifully crowd pleasing. I think so, kind of voluptuous or fruit forward, and all the things that you would want to kind of convert people at a party.
Are you one of those people who, when you have those people around for dinner, you've got your bottle of Gevrey Chambertin sitting behind a corner, and everybody else gets poured something else?
Well, it's a long dinner table, you see. There's my half of the dinner table and the other half.
All right. Gray, what about you? You work with, I think, a really interesting selection of wines because a lot of the food, especially at Potluck, has often got a bit of spice, bit of an Asian flavour. So you've got, by work demands, quite a broad palette. Where's this sitting?
Crowd pleaser, everyday drinking. You know, I wouldn't mind having this in the cupboard drinking, and as you get friends. And you know, like I'm a beer drinker. I'm a wine drinker. A lot of my friends, besides the Soms, they are also beer drinkers, and it's for them to go and break the bank and bring them, you know, something very expensive. You know, it's sometimes pointless. And I think this is decent that I can drink, they can drink. You know what I mean? It doesn't break the bank, and you know, when I see them, you know, like not drinking that much, it doesn't hit me as well. At the same time, you know what I mean? Because I'll be like, yeah, you know, it's decent for me enough to drink. I'll finish it today or tomorrow. So I think it's very decent. You know what I mean? Ticks all the boxes for Shiraz. Very nice and affordable. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's great. It's a fantastic choice.
All right, look, thumbs up, which I'm very grateful for. But I think across the board, I think what we've all managed to do on a budget, or almost on a budget, is
Almost.
go out,
Yeah.
have a lot of fun, explore the shelves, pick up some wine that, in fairness, we probably wouldn't pick up all that often,
Yeah.
and come away. I mean, your Chamonix Rouge had so much to offer. That Thelema Red, really nice. That Blanc de Mer offering some really different and interestingly exciting wines. Just another reminder, the scope of wine we have in South Africa is extraordinary, and it doesn't have to be 1,000 rand a bottle.
Yeah. Indeed.
So there we go, some expert wine advice as you see your way through the end of January. Great, Tawanda, look out for the brand new iteration of the Potluck Club at the Peach Hotel. Steph Cartwright at Great Domains, and the man who runs the entire Southern Sun Empire, Miguel Chan, going out to Norman Goodfellows and finding that at 250 Rand, there are 2 great bottles of wine still to be had. Cheers.
Cheers.